Unaware, I just signed a billion-dollar deal. My husband removed my name from our joint account after believing his mistress's lies. He didn't just hurt her, he erased her. On the same day, Elena Hale quietly became the CTO of a billion-dollar tech company. Her husband stood across from her at a crowded brunch table, let his mistress drop a fake bank statement in front of everyone, and before the day was over, he removed her name from their joint account, like she was a stranger. That morning, Elena had walked out of a glass office with a sealed folder in her bag and a tired, hopeful smile on her face. At 32, after years of coding alone in a small home office, she had finally signed the deal that changed everything. HaloMind AI, acquired for over $1 billion. Only a few people knew. Her husband wasn't one of them. He didn't ask why her hands were shaking or why she seemed so quiet. Instead, he listened to Sienna, the stylish friend, who stood at that brunch table and said, "Marcus, she's been moving money behind your back. I can prove it." In front of coworkers, in front of his own brother, he let another woman call his wife a thief. He let a fake screenshot speak louder than the woman who stood beside him for years. And while Elena stood outside later, hands shaking, trying to breathe through the humiliation, her phone lit up with a cold notification. AC count access removed. He thought she was desperate now. He thought she had nothing. What he never knew was that the big secret deal he feared was real, and it had just made her more powerful than he could ever imagine. This is not just a story about a husband who believed his mistress. It's about what happens when the woman you erase is the one who owns the system you depend on. Dear viewers, thank you for being here. If you watch without subscribing, it's like letting Elena's voice be silenced all over again. When you click that button, you stand with every person who was doubted, betrayed, and still chose to rise. Please subscribe now, and in the comments, tell me where you're watching from. The morning did not start quietly. It erupted with pressure, focus, and a kind of sharp energy that only comes when a life is about to change. Elena Hale, 32 years old, brilliant software engineer and founder of a small but fiercely innovative AI startup, sat surrounded by the glow of two large monitors. Her eyes were tired, but her mind was sharp. Every movement of her fingers across the keyboard carried the weight of years of dedication. On the left monitor, thousands of lines of code scrolling. On the right, a live prediction graph generated by her adaptive AI system, her life's work. But today was not like any other day. Today she had just finished signing the final documents for a monumental deal. A deal the world didn't know about. A deal her husband didn't know about. Her company, HaloMind AI, had been quietly acquired by one of the largest tech corporations in the country. A deal valued at $1.07 billion. She wasn't just being bought out. She had negotiated a controlling role, chief technology officer of the parent corporation and owner of the core intellectual property. But because of strict confidentiality clauses, Elena couldn't announce anything until the corporation publicly released the news. Those papers, signed only hours ago, sat in a sealed folder on her desk, heavy not just with ink but with her entire future. Her cursor blinked on the final model adjustment. She smiled softly. She had built this technology from the ground up. Every algorithm, every data set, every model. She didn't inherit money. She didn't come from privilege. She built everything with grit. At 15, she worked in a community center after school. There, in a dusty corner, sat an old donated desktop. Half the keys stuck. The monitor flickered. But that computer became her escape. She taught herself C++ because the center's printer broke and no one else could fix it. She learned machine learning because she found an outdated college textbook someone had thrown away. She built her first prediction script at 17. And at 19, she sold a basic algorithm to a tutoring website for $300. That money allowed her to buy her own used laptop. Everything she owned now came from lines of code she wrote alone at midnight, with borrowed electricity and hope. A soft voice from behind broke her focus. Marcus Hale, 34, her husband tired uniform, rough hands, shoulders slumped from a physically demanding job, walked into the room. Marcus was kind at times, proud at times, and insecure almost always. He didn't understand technology. He didn't understand code. And because he didn't understand it, he underestimated it and her. He stared at her monitors and smirked. "Still playing with your little programs?" The sentence was playful in tone, but dismissive in weight, the kind that sinks into a person slowly, not like a blade but like ice. Elena didn't respond right away. She loved Marcus. She supported him when he changed jobs 3 times. She paid bills during the months he struggled. She encouraged him when he doubted himself. She was his quiet anchor. But his tone this morning felt different, sharper, colder. She finally answered, calm and respectful. I'm finishing the adaptive model. The prediction accuracy jumped to 98%. It's ready. Marcus didn't look impressed. He didn't know that accuracy level alone would change entire industries. He didn't know that her work was the reason a billion-dollar corporation had spent 6 months negotiating behind layers of NDA. He leaned down and kissed her forehead, gentle but distracted. His phone buzzed loudly on the counter. He reached for it quickly, too quickly, shielding the screen with the back of his hand. Something inside Elena tightened. She softly turned her head and caught the last second of the notification. A name flashed across the screen. Sienna. Elena blinked. Her eyebrows lowered slightly. She didn't know a Sienna. Marcus had never mentioned anyone by that name. A strange silence filled the room, not heavy enough to call attention to itself, but unsettling enough to make her heart pause. Marcus cleared his throat and slid the phone into his pocket. It's just work, he said, voice a little too fast, a little too rehearsed. Work? Marcus didn't have coworkers named Sienna. He didn't have projects involving Sienna. He didn't even like chatting with anyone outside his small circle. Something was off. But Elena didn't confront him. Not yet. Not today. Not on the day she had signed away her company for $1 billion future he knew nothing about. Her mind drifted to the sealed folder on her desk, the deal that would change everything. Her life was about to shift into a world she had earned through sweat and sacrifice. And yet the man she loved stood only a few feet away, hiding messages from a woman she had never heard of. She turned back to her screen, but her fingers hovered in midair. Marcus walked toward the hallway as his phone buzzed again. This time, Elena couldn't see the message, but she heard Marcus whisper under his breath, "She still doesn't know." Elena's heart stopped. Know what? Her eyes narrowed. The air felt thinner. A quiet storm started building behind her ribs, slow, calm, dangerous. She didn't know it yet, but the woman whose name flashed on that screen would soon stand in front of her, smiling sweetly while tearing her marriage apart with lies. Elena would see Sienna not on a phone screen this time, but in person, looking straight at her. The day began with tension so sharp it felt like the air itself had teeth. Marcus Hale, 34, unusually cheerful and overly bright, stood in the doorway of Elena's home office. His smile was too wide, his tone too excited, and it hit Elena like a cold wave the moment he spoke. "Elena," he said, clapping his hands together, "my team is having a celebration brunch today. You should come. Everyone keeps asking about you." His excitement didn't feel natural. It felt rehearsed. Forced. Like a man acting in a play he didn't audition for. Elena Hale, 32, paused mid-keystroke. Her instinct tightened. Something about the way he lingered in the doorway, the way his shoulders shifted, made her chest grow tense. She studied his face, not looking for danger, but trying to understand the sudden invitation. Marcus rarely asked her to join his work events. He always said she wouldn't fit in, because people in his industry didn't understand tech talk. So, why today? Before she could answer, her phone buzzed. It was Ava, her best friend since high school. Ava Reed, 33, warm-hearted, sharp-tongued, and fiercely protective of Elena. Ava's message appeared on the screen. "You're too quiet. What happened?" Elena stepped into the hallway to call her. Ava picked up instantly. "Talk to me." Elena explained the sudden brunch invitation, Marcus's strange enthusiasm, and the tension from earlier when she saw the name Sienna on his phone. Ava inhaled slowly. "Elena, why do I feel like he's setting you up for something? This isn't normal Marcus behavior?" Elena didn't want to agree, but her gut whispered the same thing. Still, she tried to give Marcus the benefit of the doubt. The morning had been heavy. She didn't want to start a fight without understanding the full truth. "I'll just go," Elena said softly. "Maybe I'm overthinking." Ava's voice dropped. "Just promise me you won't ignore the signs." Elena didn't answer, because deep inside, she already felt the shift. Marcus drove them to the brunch venue, talking too quickly, laughing too loudly, trying too hard to act like everything was fine. Elena nodded politely at his stories, but her mind wasn't on the words. She felt a quiet storm forming behind each mile they drove, a storm she didn't yet understand. When they entered the venue, the noise of clinking glasses and cheerful conversations filled the air. Marcus walked beside her proudly, almost performative in the way he held her hand. "Elena, everyone's here," he said with a strange flourish, guiding her deeper inside. But Elena wasn't looking at the guests. Her eyes were drawn to the woman standing near the center of the room, Sienna. Sienna Cross, 29, consultant, stylish, perfectly polished, with the kind of beauty that demanded attention. Her smile was warm, but her eyes were cold, calculated. Elena didn't recognize her, not really, but she recognized something else. The subtle hostility behind the smile, the silent challenge, the quiet confidence of someone who believes she has already won. Jason Hale, 31, Marcus's younger brother, stood off to the side. He looked nervous, shifting from foot to foot. Jason had always been kind to Elena, gentle in a way Marcus wasn't. He lifted 2 fingers in a small greeting, but his gaze flicked between Marcus and Sienna with concern. Elena's instinct sharpened again. Something was wrong. Marcus squeezed her shoulder a little too tightly. "Elena," he said proudly, "I want you to meet someone." Sienna stepped forward with a smile that looked soft but felt sharp. "Elena," Sienna said, extending her hand gracefully, "I've heard so much about you." Her voice was honey, her eyes were knives. As their hands met, Elena felt something inside her shift, a quiet alarm ringing, something warning her that this woman wasn't a stranger. She was a threat. Jason looked away, jaw tightening. Marcus stood behind Elena with the tense excitement of a man hiding something. And Sienna, she held Elena's gaze with an intensity that said, "I know something you don't." Elena's breath thinned. She couldn't explain it, but her mind flashed back to the message notification she saw earlier. Sienna. Her name wasn't just familiar. It was connected to Marcus, deeply, dangerously. Elena pulled her hand back slowly. "Nice to meet you," she said. Though tension made the words stiff, Sienna's smile widened, almost triumphant. And in that moment, Elena understood something without hearing a single explanation. This meeting wasn't an accident. It was intentional, planned, a setup. As the room settled into awkward silence, Sienna leaned closer, her voice a soft whisper only Elena could hear. "Today, you're going to learn a lot." Elena's heart froze. Chaos didn't arrive quietly, it exploded in an instant. Just as Elena Hale, 32, took her seat at the long brunch table, a sharp clink of glass cut through the chatter. Every head turned. Sienna Cross, 29, consultant with an ice-polished smile and a confidence built on deception, tapped her spoon against her mimosa glass like she was preparing to make a toast. But her eyes were locked on Elena. Sienna inhaled dramatically, placing one hand on her chest as if she were burdened by truth. "I wasn't going to say anything," she said loudly, looking around the table. "But Marcus deserves honesty, even if it's painful." The room fell still. Marcus Hale, 34, Elena's husband, shifted in his seat, legs stiff, jaw tight, yet wearing the expression of a man expecting applause for courage he didn't earn. Elena's heart thumped once hard. Sienna turned fully toward her, voice smooth and falsely sympathetic. "Elena," she continued, "we know you've been moving money without telling Marcus." The words hit the table like a grenade. A few co-workers exchanged shocked glances. Jason Hale, 31, Marcus's younger brother, froze with his fork halfway to his mouth. He looked at Elena with confusion, not accusation, but concern. Elena felt her breath stumble. "What?" Sienna reached into her purse with theatrical slowness and pulled out a sheet of paper. She placed it gently in front of Elena, palms open as if she were offering evidence to a court. A printed screenshot, bank transfer details, Elena's name, large amounts of money, a private account number she had never seen before. Elena stared. The numbers blurred. Her mind refused to connect the dots because none of it was true. Marcus leaned in, arms crossed. He nodded stiffly. "Elena, I didn't want her to say anything, but you left me no choice. His voice stung worse than the accusation. She whispered, Marcus, you believe this? He didn't answer with words. He just looked down, jaw clenched, like a guilty man pretending to be the betrayed one. Sienna wasn't finished. She stepped closer to Elena, too close, and rested her palm on Marcus's shoulder, marking her territory with a gesture Elena wasn't supposed to see, but did. Elena, Sienna said, her tone shifting into something darker. Marcus showed me your messages. My what? Elena whispered, confused. Sienna smiled, victorious. The ones where you said you were planning to leave him. Once your big secret deal went through. Elena's blood ran cold. Her secret deal, that billion-dollar acquisition she couldn't legally talk about yet, was something only a few people knew about. And she never said those words to Marcus. Never. The betrayal sliced through her chest. A quick flash of memory. Marcus sitting with Sienna in a dimly lit room weeks ago. A quick flash of memory. Marcus sitting with Sienna in a dimly lit room weeks ago, venting about Elena's intelligence, about feeling lesser, about not understanding her work. Sienna recording him secretly. Sienna twisting his words into a believable narrative. Her voice whispering manipulation. She hides things. She doesn't respect you. You deserve someone honest. Sienna used Marcus's insecurity as fuel, used his complaints as ingredients for her lies, created fake messages piece by piece, made herself the trustworthy one. Back at the table, Jason's fork finally dropped. He looked at Marcus, eyes narrowing, silently asking, Are you sure about this? The co-workers stared in uncomfortable silence. Elena struggled to breathe. Her voice trembled. Marcus, you showed her messages that I never wrote? Marcus didn't look at her. Guilt flickered, quickly buried. Sienna leaned closer, making sure everyone could hear the next words. Women like you, she whispered with a smile, always get caught. The table fell dead silent. Every sound, every breath disappeared. Elena's vision blurred at the edges. Her cheeks burned, but she refused to let a tear fall. Not here, not in front of them. Her hands shook as she pushed her chair back. Without a word, she stood. Without looking at Marcus. Without responding to Sienna. Without defending herself because the truth didn't matter to people who already chose their lies. She walked away slowly, each step heavier than the last, her heart breaking in a way that couldn't be heard but felt everywhere in her body. The silence she left behind hurt more than shouting ever could. Jason watched her go, guilt pulling at his expression. A few co-workers exchanged uneasy glances, uncertain now, sensing something deeper beneath the surface. And Marcus, he didn't follow her. As Elena reached the exit, she heard Sienna's voice behind her, low but unmistakable. By the end of today, he'll know everything. Elena froze mid-step. That sentence would soon tie directly to the next blow waiting for her, the one that would shatter her trust beyond repair. Elena didn't walk out of the brunch venue, she escaped it. The moment the door shut behind her, the world slammed into her chest. Her breath fractured, her hands shook uncontrollably. The humiliation she had swallowed at the table, cold, sharp, merciless, now rose up inside her like a scream she couldn't let out. She rushed into a quiet corner behind the building, pressing her back against the wall, fighting for air. The sounds of laughter and clinking glasses from inside echoed cruelly in her ears. Sienna's words replayed. Women like you always get caught. Marcus's silence replayed harder. Her heart felt like it was collapsing under the weight of betrayal she hadn't earned. Her phone vibrated in her trembling hand. Ava Reed, 33, her best friend, answered the call before it could ring twice. Elena? What happened? Talk to me. Elena's voice cracked. Why would he believe her, Ava? Why didn't he ask me first? She slid down the wall until she was sitting on the ground, knees pulled to her chest. Her usually calm, logical mind spun out of control. She tried to steady her breathing, but every inhale hit the question again. Why didn't he ask me first? Ava's voice softened. Elena, what exactly did they say? Elena choked on the memory. She accused me of moving money, right in front of everyone. And Marcus, he just sat there, Ava. He didn't defend me. He didn't even look at me. Ava inhaled sharply. Elena, that's not a mistake. That's a choice. The words landed with painful clarity. Suddenly, Elena felt the weight of years pressing down on her chest. Clips of her life with Marcus flickered like old film. Sitting with him late at night, rewriting his resume when he lost his job using her savings to cover rent. The month he fell behind, cheering for him when he failed an exam, and wanted to quit waking early to pack him lunch during his first week at a new job holding. Quit him when he cried from stress, forgiving him during mood swings, promising herself things would get better. She had been steadfast. She had been committed. She had chosen him every single time. Now he believed a stranger's lie over her truth. Her breaths became smaller, thinner. She wiped the tear that slid down her face, angry that it escaped. For a moment she closed her eyes. And then another flash. A different memory. One from just a week ago. She sat in a sleek office across from Daniel Cho, the mergers and acquisitions lawyer handling the sale of her company. He was calm, professional, early 40s, with the personality of someone who had seen everything and feared nothing. Daniel leaned forward and said in a measured voice, "Once the acquisition is signed, keep things quiet until we announce. You're about to hold one of the most valuable positions in the tech world. Protect it." Elena had nodded, not realizing those words would soon collide violently with Marcus's insecurity and Sienna's lies. Back in the present, Elena opened her eyes slowly, breathing steadier now. Not calm, but controlled. Ava's voice came through the phone again, gentle but fierce. "Elena, listen. Whatever they're doing, it's planned. Sienna didn't make up that attack on the spot. Marcus went along with it because she's feeding him something he wants to believe. You need to protect yourself." Elena didn't respond, because at that exact moment, her phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't Ava. It was a notification from her banking app. The words lit up her screen like a final blow. "Account, access, removed." Elena stared at the message. Her entire body went cold. Her fingers loosened. The phone slipped from her hand and hit the ground. Ava heard the sound. "Elena? What happened?" "Elena?" Elena whispered the words she could barely form. "He cut me off. Marcus removed my access." Ava gasped. "Oh my God. Elena, he's not confused. He's choosing Sienna's lies over you." Elena inhaled deeply, one slow breath that seemed to reset something inside her. Her shaking stopped. Her eyes sharpened. A shift. Not loud, not explosive. Quiet, focused. This wasn't just heartbreak anymore. It was awakening. Ava spoke again, voice trembling with emotion. "Elena, come home. We need to figure out the next step." Elena picked up her phone, wiping the dirt from the screen. But when she stood, she didn't walk toward home. She turned in the opposite direction with purpose in her steps. Because if Marcus wanted to believe lies, then she needed to speak to the one person who knew the truth behind her secret deal. The one person who warned her about being quiet. Daniel. Elena whispered to herself, voice steady now. "I need a lawyer." And as she walked away, the sun caught the sealed folder in her bag. The billion-dollar deal Marcus never imagined she had. Elena didn't knock. She pushed the glass door open with a force she didn't know she had. The intensity hit the room instantly. Daniel Cho, 44, a calm, razor-sharp corporate lawyer with a reputation for handling high-stakes tech acquisitions, stood the moment he saw her. He had been expecting confusion or nervous excitement about the deal, but not this, certainly not the storm in her eyes. "Elena," he said carefully, "did he finally cross the line?" Elena didn't trust her voice yet. She moved forward, shoulders squared, posture strong despite the redness around her eyes. She reached into her bag with trembling hands and placed the printed screenshot on his desk, the same lie Sienna used to humiliate her just hours ago. Daniel looked at it once and exhaled slowly, disappointment and anger mixing behind his usually controlled expression. "Sit," he said softly. She did. For a moment, silence hung between them. Not an empty silence, but the heavy kind that signals the start of a war. A second door inside the office opened, and Victor Hale, 38, Forensic accountant, not related to Marcus despite the last name, stepped out holding a tablet. He specialized in uncovering financial fraud and digital tampering. Daniel nodded toward him. Victor, take a look. Victor sat across from Elena, studied the screenshot, and his eyebrows shot upward almost instantly. It's altered, he said plainly. Elena blinked hard. She knew it was a lie, but hearing a professional confirm, it cracked something open inside her. Victor continued, pointing at the page. Look here, misaligned pixelation on the account details, inconsistent timestamp formatting, and most importantly, the system tracking ID is missing. No real bank transfer is processed without that ID. This is a fake. His tone was clinical, certain, unshakable. Elena swallowed, emotions tight in her throat. How did she do this? Victor leaned back. Someone with enough motivation can modify a screenshot. But whoever did this wasn't a professional. They got sloppy. Sloppy. Just like Sienna's smirk. Just like Marcus's blind belief. Daniel's jaw tightened. Elena, he said gently. Sienna didn't just lie. She planned this. Marcus gave her access to just enough information to create a believable narrative. Elena closed her eyes briefly. The memory of Marcus nodding at the brunch table burned through her chest again. She steadied her breath. Daniel continued, shifting the conversation. And now we need to talk about your deal. Elena opened her eyes. This part still didn't feel real, not after the emotional destruction of the morning. Daniel slid a folder toward her, the same type of sealed folder she had at home. Elena, your acquisition was finalized this morning. As of today, you are the CTO of a billion-dollar tech corporation. You own the core intellectual property behind HaloMind AI, Victor added, and you have more leverage than Marcus or Sienna can imagine. Daniel looked directly into her eyes. And Marcus has no idea, correct? Elena nodded slowly. No idea. He doesn't understand my work. He never asked. Daniel's tone softened. You held back because of the NDA, not because you were hiding anything. Elena felt a quiet strength begin to return. Not loud, not angry, just solid, like a foundation rebuilding itself. A light on Daniel's desk phone began flashing an incoming call. It's Linda, Daniel said. Linda Perez, 41, divorce and family law specialist, joined the meeting via speaker. Her voice was smooth, professional, and carried the calm authority of someone who had guided many people out of emotional storms. Elena, Linda said, Daniel updated me. Cutting you off financially based on fabricated evidence is grounds for immediate legal action. Emotional abuse, financial manipulation, and conspiracy to defraud are all relevant. Elena listened, letting the words steady her breathing. Linda continued, You hold significant assets now. You are not powerless. You are in a position of strength. Elena pressed her lips together, nodding slowly. Daniel leaned forward. Elena, you get to decide what happens next. There was a brief silence. Then Linda asked the question that split the room in two. Elena, do you want quiet justice or public justice? The air froze. Elena lifted her chin, not shaking, not unsure anymore. Her voice was quiet, but powerful. Both. Victor exchanged a look with Daniel. They understood exactly what that meant. Daniel closed the folder with a soft click and said, Then we begin today. Outside Daniel's office window, the city lights reflected off the glass, sharp, cold, and full of the kind of truth that could ruin the people who betrayed her. The tension in the conference room hit Elena the moment she stepped inside. It wasn't fear, it wasn't anxiety, it was power, quiet, controlled, and pointed directly at her. The walls were glass, the table long and polished, and the air felt like the start of something irreversible. At the head of the table sat Howard Grant, 58, chairman of the corporation that had just acquired HaloMind AI. His reputation was legendary, sharp, decisive, a man who built tech giants with a calm smile and an uncompromising mind. He rose to greet Elena. Elena, he said with real respect, your work will change everything. The intensity of his words struck her like a wave. Days earlier, her husband had chosen a stranger's lies over her truth. Now she stood in a room where the world's top executives treated her like the center of gravity. To Howard's right sat Caroline Brooks, 35, the company's PR director, smart eyes, quick mind, already typing the draft statement that would introduce Elena as the new CTO. Across from her, Natalie Pierce, 40, corporate mediator and contract specialist, organized folders of documents for Elena to sign. And beside Elena, steady and supportive, sat Daniel Cho, 44, her corporate lawyer, the same man who had promised hours earlier that power was already in her hands. The contrast between these rooms, this one and the brunch that tore her open, felt almost unreal. Howard took his seat and gestured for Elena to sit. She did, straight-backed, composed, her hands folded neatly on the table. But inside, the morning's humiliation still burned like a wound. Howard opened a file. Elena, before we finalize the announcement, we want to walk through the indirect impact your adaptive AI will have across multiple industries. Caroline nodded, pulling up a presentation on the large monitor. Lines appeared connecting industries to Halomine's technology: security, logistics, automation, and then something unexpected. Howard tapped a line that extended toward a manufacturing and supply company, the same field Marcus worked in. Your predictive engine powers the software they use to schedule production, he said. Without your system's renewal, their operations slow by 40%. Elena's breath caught. Daniel leaned forward. Meaning? Howard answered plainly. Meaning your work keeps many companies, including your husband's employer, running smoothly. And once you're announced as CTO, your decisions will shape all future renewals. Not revenge. Not yet. Simply truth. Truth that shifted the ground beneath her feet. Elena absorbed it quietly. Marcus thought she was powerless. He believed lies because they fit his insecurity. But here she held leverage he never imagined. Caroline clicked to the next slide. Elena, once we release the announcement, your name will dominate tech headlines. Investors will watch you closely. Competitors will attempt to contact you. It's a new life. Elena's chest tightened, not with fear, but with something deeper. Strength, self-recognition, worth. Natalie slid the signature pages toward her. These finalize your position, title, and authority to make binding decisions for the tech division. Elena held the pen. Her hand did not shake. For a moment, everything slowed, the memory of Sienna whispering, "Women like you always get caught." Marcus nodding at lies, the humiliation that cut her open. And now? She was the woman whose work powered industries. The woman positioned to decide the future of systems her husband's workplace depended on. The woman he underestimated. She signed each page with steady strokes. Caroline looked up from her laptop, eyes bright. Elena, one question remains. She turned the screen toward her. Do we publish your announcement today? The room fell quiet. Elena looked down at her wedding ring, once a promise, now a symbol of betrayal. She touched it lightly, then lifted her hand away from it. Her voice was soft, but firm enough to shift the air. Yes. Howard nodded with satisfaction. Daniel leaned back, proud. Caroline's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Just before Caroline clicked publish, Elena whispered, "Let the truth speak before I ever do." Outside the conference room, the city hummed, ready to watch her name rise and ready to watch someone else's world fall. The explosion didn't come from fire or sound. It came from the moment Marcus Hale opened his mouth. The workroom was buzzing the next morning. Equipment humming, keyboards clicking, co-workers moving through their routines. And in the middle of it all stood Marcus, 34, loud, smug, and drunk on the false power he believed he held. He laughed loudly as he leaned against a desk, telling the same story he had repeated since brunch. "I finally put Elena in her place," he bragged, thumping his chest lightly. "She thinks she's smarter than everyone. But Sienna helped me open my eyes. You should have seen her face. She didn't even try to deny it." Co-workers exchanged uneasy looks. Some nodded awkwardly. Others looked confused. But Marcus didn't notice the discomfort. He was too busy believing he had won something. A few steps behind him, Jason Hale, 31, his younger brother, watched silently. Jason had been troubled since the brunch. He didn't trust Sienna. He didn't trust the evidence. He didn't trust the way Marcus embraced those lies so easily. But he didn't say anything. Not yet. A moment later, the sound of heels approached the sharp, delicate rhythm belonging only to Sienna Cross, 29, the mistress hiding behind false sweetness and perfectly curated confidence. She entered the room with her usual performance-ready grace. "Marcus," she said tenderly, placing a hand on his arm. "Are you okay? I know this morning must have been hard for you." "Hard for him." Jason's jaw tightened. Marcus leaned into her touch like a man who believed he had found his savior. "She showed her true colors," he said proudly. "And I didn't let her get away with it." Sienna nodded, with exaggerated sympathy. "You did the right thing. Some women pretend to be innocent while hiding so much." The room felt wrong, cold, twisted. Jason turned away, unable to watch. And then it happened. A gasp. Then another. Then a clatter as someone dropped their phone. The entire room shifted from chatter to stunned silence in under 3 seconds. Co-workers stared at their screens with widened eyes, whispering urgently, "What is that? No way. Is this real?" Marcus frowned. "What's going on?" Before anyone could answer, Ethan Ward, 42, one of the company's investors and longtime friend of Marcus's manager, rushed toward him. Ethan was breathless, jaw hanging open, phone gripped tightly in his hand. "Marcus, you need to see this." Marcus laughed, assuming it was a meme or some joke. "Relax. It can't be that serious." Ethan shoved the phone into his hands. The headline glowed on the screen like a lightning strike. AI innovator Elena Hale signs billion-dollar acquisition deal, appointed CTO. Marcus's smile collapsed. His knees almost buckled. His breath hitched like he'd been punched. He read it again. And again. Billion-dollar. Elena Hale, CTO. The room spun. Sienna's eyes widened, fear replacing confidence, panic replacing poise. She stepped back, her lips parted slightly as if she had forgotten how to breathe. Co-workers whispered louder now. "Your wife is a billionaire? She invented that technology? She's CTO now? Dude, what did you do?" Jason stepped forward, voice calm but heavy with truth. "You made a mistake, Marcus." Marcus shook his head urgently, almost violently. No, she lied. She hid things. But the words tumbled into nothing. Every accusation he had believed, every lie Sienna fed him, now shattered under the weight of Elena's accomplishment. A woman he discarded. A woman he humiliated. A woman he believed was beneath him. Suddenly, Sienna grabbed Marcus's arm, but not with affection this time. It was fear. She whispered sharply, "Marcus, you lied to me." He jerked back, stunned. "What? I lied to you?" Sienna's eyes darted around, calculating, desperate. "You told me she was some weak wife, that she was nothing, that she was holding you back. But she's a billionaire? A CTO? You didn't tell me she signed a deal." Marcus swallowed hard. "I didn't know." Sienna stepped even farther away, trembling with anger. Co-workers watched, stunned and silent. The mistress, the husband, the lies unraveling in real time. Sienna whispered one last line, soft, sharp, cutting straight through Marcus's collapsing world. "If she has this much power, what do you think she'll do next?" At that very moment, Marcus's phone buzzed with a new notification, one that would pull the rug out from under him a second time and lead directly into the investigation waiting in the next scene. The chaos didn't wait. It arrived with force. Marcus Hale, 34, sat stiffly in a small HR conference room at work, hands sweating on the table as two suited men with briefcases took seats across from him. The machines outside still hummed, but in here, the air felt heavy, machines still humming, co-workers staring, the energy shifting like a storm had walked in disguised as men with briefcases. One of the men opened a folder. "Mr. Hale, thank you for coming. We need to review some financial activity connected to your joint accounts." "Now." Marcus's throat tightened. "What? Why?" "I didn't." But his words meant nothing, because behind the investigators stepped Victor Hale, 38, forensic accountant, the same man who had exposed Sienna's fake screenshot in Daniel's office. He was not related to Marcus, but shared the surname by coincidence. His face was calm, controlled, yet held the sharpness of someone who knew exactly why he was there. Victor lifted a folder. "We completed our audit, Mr. Hale. There are irregularities involving marital accounts, irregularities that connect directly to personal spending you cannot explain." Sienna Cross, 29, who had followed Marcus into the office earlier to support him, stiffened instantly. Her breath hitched as Victor continued. "These include luxury hotel stays, private transfers, jewelry receipts, and recurring payments to a personal account belonging to Miss Sienna Cross." The room snapped into electric silence. Co-workers stared with wide eyes, some shocked, some whispering behind their hands. Jason Hale, 31, Marcus's younger brother, stood in the corner staring at the ground as if trying to hold himself together. Marcus's face drained of color. "That's not I didn't, there must be some mistake." But he could barely speak the words because deep inside, he knew exactly what they were referring to, and he knew Elena would never make anything up. She was too honest, too gentle, too painfully loyal. Sienna stepped back, her perfect posture faltering. Victor placed a document in front of Marcus. "These transactions were made using funds from accounts shared with your wife. She has filed an inquiry through her legal team. The bank and your wife's legal team requested this review, and your employer has agreed to cooperate fully." Marcus shook his head violently. "No, Elena wouldn't do this. She must have misunderstood." Victor's expression didn't change. She didn't misunderstand. She saw the evidence. Sienna's face twisted, panic blooming across her carefully made features. The walls she had built with lies were collapsing faster than she could process. And then something snapped in her. "No," she whispered, stepping back even farther. "No, this isn't fair. I didn't force you to spend that money. You wanted to impress me, Marcus. You bought those things willingly." Co-workers gasped. Jason looked up sharply. Victor remained still, like someone watching a predictable movie unfold. Marcus spun toward Sienna, eyes wide with disbelief. "What are you talking about?" "You told me." Sienna cut him off with a bitter laugh. "You told me she was nothing, that she was a burden. You told me you wanted someone who actually cared about you." She pointed at him with shaking hands. "You said she didn't deserve your money." Marcus's face twisted in horror. He reached toward her. "Sienna, stop please." But she was far from finished. A quick flash of memory filled her mind. Sienna in her apartment arguing with a debt collector on the phone. Bills piled on her kitchen counter. Her voice trembling as she said, "Just give me more time, please." Her eyes scanning a text from Marcus offering dinner, comfort, attention, money. Sienna never loved him. He was her way out. And now the door was slamming shut. Back in the present, Sienna's breaths turned manic. "If I go down," she hissed, "you go down." Victor's calm voice cut the air. "That will not change the facts, Miss Cross. You both benefited from misused funds." Sienna's eyes darted wildly. Then without warning, she turned and ran toward the exit. Co-workers jumped aside as she shoved through them, heels clacking across the floor. Marcus lunged forward desperately. "Sienna, don't you dare leave. Get back here." But she didn't stop. She fled the building, disappearing into sunlight that felt far too bright for the disaster she left behind. Marcus stumbled after her, breath shaking, world collapsing in real time. Ethan Ward, 42, longtime investor, watched him with a disappointed shake of the head. Jason muttered quietly, "I warned you." Marcus stopped in the doorway. His chest rose and fell fast, panic swallowing him whole. His lies were falling apart. His affair was exposed. His financial crimes were documented. His mistress had abandoned him. And Elena, the wife he had humiliated, was the one now holding all the power. He sank against the doorframe, unable to breathe. At that exact moment, his phone buzzed. A message from Elena's legal team. The subject line alone froze his blood. Notice of divorce proceedings and asset investigation. Marcus didn't walk to Elena's new corporate building he ran. He burst through the revolving doors like a man fleeing a burning house. His face was pale, shirt wrinkled, hair messy, breathing frantic. The polished marble floor reflected a version of him he could barely recognize. Desperate, shaken, exposed. The lobby was enormous glass walls, modern steel columns, and a long reception desk where every pair of eyes immediately turned toward him. The intensity of the moment hit him before he even reached the front desk. "Where is she?" Marcus demanded. "I need to see Elena Hale. Now." A uniformed security guard, tall and calm, stepped forward. His badge read, M. Turner. "Sir, do you have an appointment?" Marcus shook his head violently. "I'm her husband." Security didn't move. "That does not give you access to restricted corporate floors." "But she's my wife. She needs to hear me out." Security's voice stayed firm. "She is in a confidential board meeting." Marcus froze. Behind the guard, through the glass wall that separated the lobby from the private floor corridor, Marcus could see a large conference room, elevated on the second-level walls made of transparent glass. Inside that room, surrounded by executives, stood Elena Hale, 32. She wore a navy blazer, hair neatly pinned, posture tall and composed. She spoke with confidence, her expression calm and focused, not wounded, not broken, not the woman he humiliated at brunch. Every board member was watching her. Every assistant was taking notes. Every screen displayed her adaptive AI model. Marcus felt the air leave his lungs. Just hours ago, he believed he had destroyed her. Now she stood there, respected, admired, powerful. An executive leaned toward her, nodding with admiration. Elena responded with controlled clarity, nothing in her face, revealing the storm she had endured because of him. Marcus pressed a hand to the glass wall, whispering, "Elena." She didn't see him. Security stepped forward. "Sir, you need to step back. I just need 2 minutes with her. Please," Marcus shouted. Employees walking through the lobby slowed down, whispering, "That's her husband? He looks bad. Didn't he?" "Yeah, that's him." Public humiliation. The exact mirror of what she suffered. But now, it was his turn. Marcus slammed his palm harder against the glass. "Elena, please look at me. I didn't know. She lied to me. I made a mistake." His voice cracked, echoing through the lobby. People stared. Cameras on phones began to rise. Upstairs, Elena shifted slightly in her chair. She noticed movement near the glass wall but did not react. Not one muscle changed in her face. She continued speaking to the executives, calm and steady. Her silence toward Marcus was louder than anything she could have said. Marcus's knees weakened. "Elena, please. I'm sorry." Security placed a hand on his shoulder. "Sir, you're causing a disturbance. Step away from the window." He didn't move. And then, a familiar voice behind him said quietly, "Marcus." He turned. Jason Hale, 31, stood there, face tired, eyes filled with disappointment. He had followed Marcus here, knowing this collapse was inevitable. Jason walked closer, speaking softly but firmly. "She deserved better." Marcus's lips trembled. "Jason, please, you know me. Tell them I need to see her." Jason shook his head. "That's the problem. I do know you." Marcus's heart cracked. Security guard Turner stepped in again, expression sympathetic but unmoved. "Sir, if you don't leave voluntarily, we will have to escort you out." Marcus looked up at Elena one last time. She was smiling now, not at him. Not because of him, but because an executive had just praised her strategic plan. It gutted him. "Elena," he whispered, broken. She didn't look down. Not once. His legs finally gave out. Marcus sank to the floor, head in his hands, surrounded by people who now saw the truth he refused to see until it destroyed everything. Jason knelt beside him for only a moment. "She gave you loyalty," he said, "and you gave her lies." Marcus sobbed quietly. In the meeting room above, Elena signed another set of documents that gave her full authority to restructure all contracts connected to her AI platform. At that exact moment, Elena's assistant slipped a discreet envelope onto her desk. Inside was a final report from her legal team, a list of charges, missing funds, and names, including Sienna Cross. And at the bottom of the report, One line waited like a final strike. 2 months later, the courtroom felt colder than any room Elena had ever stepped into. Not because of the marble floors or the stiff wooden benches, but because of the man standing across from her. Marcus Hale, 34, shoulders slumped, hands shaking, eyes swollen from hours of panic and regret, stared at her like she was the last lifeline he had left. The intensity hit immediately. "Elena, please," Marcus whispered, stepping forward before the bailiff stopped him. "Please, just hear me out. I was confused. I made mistakes. She lied to me. You know she did. Don't do this. Don't leave." But Elena Hale, 32, didn't move. She stood still, poised, calm, the same calm she carried in the boardroom, the same calm that came after crying everything out days before. Her navy blazer was pressed, her posture straight, her eyes steady. This time, she wasn't the woman begging to be believed. She was the woman who believed in herself. Judge Cole, 56, known for fairness and a no-nonsense approach, entered the courtroom with files in hand. He took his seat and adjusted his glasses. These proceedings concern the dissolution of marriage between Marcus Hale and Elena Hale. Counsel, are we ready to begin? Linda Perez, 41, Elena's divorce lawyer, stood first. "Yes, Your Honor." Marcus swallowed, his own lawyer nowhere to be seen. He had scrambled to find representation, but after Victor's financial report and his shrinking savings, he walked into court alone. "Elena," he tried again, voice cracking. "Please don't do this. I can fix it. I'll fix everything. I just need you." Linda placed a protective hand on Elena's shoulder. Elena finally spoke soft, steady, unwavering. "You believed a stranger's lies, while I was standing right in front of you." Marcus flinched as if stabbed. She continued, voice quiet but strong enough to fill the room. "You didn't ask me. You didn't talk to me. You didn't trust me. And you let her destroy our home." Marcus shook his head desperately. "I didn't know what I was doing." "You knew enough to cut me off financially," she said calmly. "You knew enough to humiliate me in public. You knew enough to believe her without question." Silence swallowed the room. Judge Cole cleared his throat and reviewed the documents Linda had submitted. Bank misuse, emotional betrayal, falsified evidence, and Elena's legal status as the primary asset holder following her billion-dollar acquisition. The judge looked at Marcus. "Mr. Hale, do you contest the dissolution?" Marcus's body trembled. He opened his mouth and closed it. The truth had already spoken for him. "No," he whispered. Judge Cole nodded. "Then I finalize the divorce effective immediately." He stamped the papers. A single sound, sharp, final, unforgettable. It was the sound of Elena getting her life back. Linda handed Elena the exit documents. "You're free," she said softly. Elena exhaled a long, deep breath she had been holding since the day Sienna first spoke her lies. The courtroom doors opened, and Ava Reed, 33, Elena's closest friend, rushed in. She had waited outside the whole time. When she saw Elena's face, she didn't ask a single question. She just wrapped her arms around her. "You did it," Ava whispered. "You chose yourself." Elena closed her eyes, not with pain, but with peace. When the hug ended, she walked quietly toward the exit, not looking back, not needing to. Behind her, Marcus fell into the nearest bench, face in his hands, realizing too late what he had destroyed by believing another woman's lies. Elena stepped outside the courthouse. The air was warm. Not triumphant, just honest, clean, and full of possibility. She looked up at the sky as if greeting a new chapter. Her voice gentle, strong, filled the moment. Voiceover. "They tried to break me with lies, but truth gave me something stronger than revenge, a life without them." Elena walked forward free, steady, unstoppable. As she reached her car, her phone buzzed with a message from Daniel. "Ready for your first major decision as CTO?" Elena smiled softly. Her story wasn't ending. It was only beginning. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed creating it. Like, share, and comment on the lessons you've learned. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. See you in my next video.